Alright guys, I've got a 15-minute game against a player rated 869, and I've got the white pieces. We've played e4, e5, so let's go for something fairly normal. Somebody's asked me for a video on the Re Lopez, but we don't have the Re Lopez. Okay, so this is the Damiano defense, and I think there's a trap here, but I cannot remember what it is. So, right. So he's moved the f pawn, which isn't fantastic. Right. So I've got the thing that you have to notice about this is that moving the f pawn means that there's a line towards the king. Now, I think bishop c4 looks very natural here. I'm going to play that. Kingside is already compromised. Okay, we have knight out. Now I can castle. I can also play d4. Pawn takes, knight takes. If knight takes, queen takes. So that seems kind of principled. Attacking the centre straight away. Castling is also an option. Also developing my knight is an option. One of the issues with pushing f6 is that he's taken away this square from his knight. So where's his knight going to go? If it's going to develop, it's going to go here and block in the queen and the bishop. So I'm going to bring my knight out. Interesting. Okay, castling looks natural. If knight takes knight, I've got queen takes. And that's not bad for me, because he's burned 1, 2, 3 moves. Okay, queen takes. And now look, I've got 3 pieces out on the board, and my opponent, and I've castled. My opponent has only the 1. So now let's push d3 and attack this knight. And that really will open up the king side of the board if I capture that knight, because the g-pawn will have to recapture. Then I can play my queen to here with check. I can't win the pawn back. Alright, now do we want to remove the knight? Let's just remove the knight. That is a good bishop, but at the same time now I have queen here. And it comes with check, and the bishop can't block and the rook can't block, so the king is going to have to move. So the king can't go here or here. So the king's going to have to move to there or there. Then my knight might come in. So let's have a look at that. This is a very bad situation already for black. He's got no development. He's lost both of his knights. He's not castled. Okay, I have a check here, which is definitely interesting. Also attacks this pawn. Let's throw in the check. Other ideas now could be to play f4, try and break open the middle of the board. Alright, now, what I would love to do would be to move this knight and attack the queen. But my knight is not in a position to attack the queen there. I could, for example, capture on c7 with a double check and then go on to take the rook. That's an idea. I think that probably looks like the best move. So let's do that. Double check. So that's a discovered check by the bishop, and also a check by the knight. King can't go here, here, or here, so he's going to have to come back or push the pawn. Alright. But now, I think this is mate. There we go. 12 moves, and my opponent falls. Let's see if he wants a rematch. So that was a 0-16 game. Don't think the rematch is on the card, so let's just review the game. e4, e5. Ah, right, we have a rematch. Fantastic. Okay, let's go for the same e4, e5. King's head opening. He's done the same thing now as white. Yeah. So, obviously, there is queen there. But that's just going to prompt g3, kicking the queen away. But this is definitely weakening. So what do we do? King's head opening. You just don't see that. Okay, so bishop out looks like a decent move. Knight to here. Knight doesn't have great prospects from there because of these light squared pawns. It can't go there, there, there. So my knight might want to come here. So I'm thinking let's bring out the bishop first. This also prevents d4 because I have two attackers. Okay, out comes the knight. If the knight wants to come in here, maybe knight e7 would be a good idea now. So 2 games and he's moved the forget about it pawn twice. And he's moved his knight out there twice. Wow. I have d5, which threatens to push to d4 and win tempo by gaining the knight. So I'm going to play that now. I'm going to strike in the centre now. Also means that bishop takes knight again is an option. Okay, that's capture with the knight. If we have a trade of knights, that's fine. It means I've got 2 pieces developed and I'm ready to castle. Okay, queen takes. Now you see I've got 2 pieces out on the board. White only has 1 piece out on the board. And that's what you get when you trade like that. Okay, what's his plan? He's not going to move his bishop here because I take it. He's probably going to want to move his bishop to b2. Now, I can put my queen or my bishop onto this square, preventing that and also attacking the rook. So if I move my queen here and he puts the bishop there, I can just take it. If I put my queen there and he moves his bishop here, my bishop can take it. Plus, there's a threat, which is I can take the knight out because the knight's defending f2, and with my queen here, I'm threatening mate. So let's take out the knight first. I'm expecting pawn takes. So this is like a lesson in why not to move Freddie the forget about it pawn. There's no real threats. If he brings his bishop out here, I can just put my queen on there anyway and threaten mate in 1. Okay, let's go to here. So double threat, mate and capturing the rook. Let's see what my opponent figures out. He's got to stop the mate. Queen here would do that. But that, unfortunately, does not. Let's see if he wants another one. Still 0-16, so my opponent here has nothing to lose. He's lost 2 games, but he hasn't lost a single rating point. Okay. So let's have a quick look at this one. Looks like he doesn't want any more. I don't get this. I just don't get it. I mean, one of the issues is that the C pawn and the F pawn are not the best pawns to move very early on because they don't allow bishops to develop, right? His first move allowed his light squared bishop to come out, but this move does nothing. The only real new diagonal it opens up is towards the king. So not great. So now I bring out my bishop, brings out his knight, bring out my knight here because I didn't think it had much future from this square. And again, this weird putting his knight on the edge, right? Knights on the rim are dim. So again, he's left himself open to this idea of bishop takes knight, pawn takes, leading to double isolated pawns on the edge of the board. Takes, takes. I don't think knight takes was accurate here because it just gives me a development advantage. So look at the situation now, right? At this point, black has just moved, right? White has 2 pieces developed. Black has 2 pieces developed, right? But after this, knight takes, queen takes, suddenly white is behind in development. He's got 1 knight that's on the edge of the board, not good. And the reason is because it's only guarding 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And a knight can potentially control double that amount, provided it's in this area of the board. Okay, so that's one reason why it's poor. It just has less scope in the game. So here we have a pawn push. Now this isn't too bad, it's the B pawn, so it allows this bishop to come out, but it also weakens these dark squares. And I have a queen and a dark squared bishop out in the board with lots and lots of scope. So now I take out the knight and double threat, and he misses the checkmate. So very, very simple, very, very basic. Good lesson in why not to move Freddie. Leave Freddie alone. Yeah, generally doesn't work. I'm going to have a quick look at the Explorer while we're here. And let's just look at both of these openings, right? So we've got e4, e5. So looking in my games, all the games that I've played on chess.com, which is over 3,000 in this position, probably more like 4,000 in this position. Okay, so now what did we see? Knight to f3, and then he played this, didn't he? In the first game. f6. Now, f6 here, I've only seen it 12 times. I've won 58%, so I've won 7, lost 5 from this position. So it's very, very not good. Okay, bishop to c4 has been my best response. I've also played d3, but yeah, it's just not great. Let's look at master games. How many times do the big guys play this? Okay, well they play knight to, hang on, knight takes e5. Knight takes e5 is what the masters play. Okay, so in fact I think I do have a video on the Damiano. So knight takes e5. Maybe this is the trick that I missed. Okay, now queen e7 has been played and f takes e5 has been played. So let's say this is most likely what you're going to see, and then yeah, I spotted this. Queen to h5 check. Right, and now there's only two moves: king e7 or pushing the pawn. If the pawn is pushed, it's like the way with queen again. You see? The same deal. We've got a fork on king and rook. Queen e7, queen takes the rook, and this has only been seen once at the master level. Okay? So that's the trick to remember. If you see the Damiano, take the pawn. And queen out, and it's just looking absolutely horrible. Alright, let's go back to my games. Let's flip the board. And we'll see now what my opponent did. f3, king's head opening. Right, this isn't actually on my database yet. So, bishop c5. Ah, because it's, right. I should have set it as black. There you go. Okay. So I've won all 3 games from this position. Okay, bishop c5. And now knight to c3. Yeah, so very winning for black already. Now let's see how many times has this been played at the top level. Master games. Okay, so from here, this has been seen a fair amount, 250,000 times. With now, let's see, this. Okay, no it hasn't. So this position. Sometimes you have to go backwards and forwards in the Explorer, it gets a bit confused. Alright, so white has actually won 5 out of 7 games from this position. So here, black will typically play d5. It's only been played a couple of times. And this is kind of equal. But definitely an odd position. Alright, so from here, knight to c3 has been played, or bishop b5 has been played. Bishop b5 check, this is better for black. c6, yeah, and the bishop is kicked, has to move. White already has a better pawn structure. So, yeah, there you go, guys. Just don't think about playing f6 or f3 that early on in a game. As we've seen, certainly at the lower levels, it puts you straight on the back foot. So just don't do it. Leave Freddie alone, right? Freddie the f-pawn. F-pawns are very important. And the reason why they are a soft target early on in the game is that if you look at, like, this pawn is defended by the rook, right? This pawn is defended by the bishop. This pawn is defended only by the king. So the only piece that can recapture that pawn if it is taken is the king. What's more, it's playing an important role of blocking off this diagonal towards the king. So two good reasons to leave that pawn alone. Okay? And how often do we see like a bishop sacrifice, bishop takes f2 check, or bishop takes f7 check, forcing the king to come out, or even, you know, like with a scholar's mate, with a queen takes there, for example. Let's see if we can remember how does scholar's mate work. So we'll do bishop out to here, looking at f7, right? And let's say black plays something normal and lazy. Then you've got, for example, you can bring the queen out to here or to here, right? So there you go. And if black now plays again something ridiculous like bishop out, then you go 4 moves, checkmate. Okay, that's why it's so sensitive. So excuse the ducks having fun outside. Queen is defended by the bishop. There's nothing that can be done. Okay, so you've got to protect these guys. You've got to protect your f pawn at the start of the game. It's just not a great idea. I mean, you know, there are openings. For example, you know, you could play the king's gambit, right, with c4. Sorry, the queen's gambit. Gone the wrong way around, right? e4, e5, f4. Okay. It's been played plenty of times at the master level. Most common move is to accept it with that. But now knight to f3, you see, covers these squares, so the queen now can't come in. We see this a lot in the Scotch game, and this is not too dissimilar actually to the, sorry, not the Scotch game, the Vienna gambit. Okay, so in the Vienna gambit, you play your knight out here first, knight comes to there. Then this is like a king's gambit with the knights on the board. And if pawn takes here, but now we have this move, right? But again, you know, knight to f3, very, very typical in the Vienna gambit, because when the knight comes out, the queen can come out to here. There's no Freddie gone, right? So you have to play your knight to here to prevent this queen check. There you go, just a quick lesson in not moving Freddie. Don't move Freddie, leave Freddie alone. He's got an important job to do. What's more, the f-pawn and the c-pawn, remember this, don't allow your bishops to come out into the game. So lots of good reasons to leave the f-pawns the hell alone. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.